After going around the world for the past 11 chapters, we had been wondering, when are we going to get back to Egghead? And what are we going to see when we get there? And this man Oda cooked up a masterclass for us to eat in our return chapter to Egghead Island with one of the rawest final panels, man. That's my crew. That's my emperor. We're ready. We are so ready, man. And I loved how the entire chapter was structured. Before we get into any of that, I just need to apologize because I was fully intending on having the chapter 1089 Afterthoughts post up, but the Gear 5 hype got to me, man. It's because I was late the following day. The only thing that was on my head was, G5, 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 right? And then after we got the episode, I for sure forgot, man. So whenever I logged in today to be like, all right, it's time, let's go ahead and do the Afterthoughts, didn't do the post. And so I let y'all down, I let myself down because I was looking forward to seeing what all of you had to say here. But regardless, we're here. We are here to talk about this awesome, awesome chapter, man, with so many implications for the future of the story. As we talked about in depth over in the chapter reaction, we had a really nice discussion after the reaction, even though it was relatively short because I was still, even though I'm still recovering, but I was definitely recovering at the time of recording that reaction. And so we had a nice discussion about like the flooding that took place, causing the Great Reset 800 years ago with the Noah and stuff of that nature. In this particular Afterthoughts, I just wanted to pay attention to, or I should say emphasize, the awesome structure of this chapter. This chapter had a lot, man. And to know that we had an around the world chapter that would segue back into Egghead Island, it was just so cool. It was so cool. And I think the main reason why I found it to be so incredible is it was sort of like the opposite of what we normally get, right? Where up until this point, we would have gotten a lot of the stuff taking place within the arc. The arc ends, we get an around the world chapter where things have already ended, right? Things that started off screen, then we get back to it and we see the ending, the stuff that we needed to see, right? In this particular case, we went around the world for 10 chapters and spent a specific amount of time with characters like Shanks and Kid, Garp and Kuzan, Blackbeard and Law, Buggy, Instant Messenger Sama the Gorosei, all these characters, right? Going back between the present and the past, allowing us more context into things that are currently happening around the world. And I think that's the reason why this chapter hit as hard as it did, because this felt like the real return chapter, where 1087, 1088 felt like just a direct continuation to all that stuff that was happening. And we've talked about it before, and how Shonen Jump is normally like a couple weeks ahead, or Oda's ahead a couple of weeks where Shonen Jump is. So this really felt like Oda's return chapter after taking his month-long break, right? Where maybe he already had the other two storyboarded, came back and released this one, because this felt like a necessary around the world, everyone reacting to the events that took place with Garp, currently taking place with Luffy, and of course the recap to get us back into Egghead. And the way that recap was done was really, really cool. Now the anime is probably going to extend that tenfold, but we're not there yet. We're not there yet. For right now, I like the way this was done because all the information was regurgitated back to Sanjay Garcia's Saturn as he asked about what was currently taking place on Egghead Island, and we needed to get caught up on the events that were taking place even though we didn't know it. Because obviously whenever I was reading through the chapter, I was like, okay, we're getting our recap here, getting ourselves situated, getting the casual audience back into the thick of things when it comes to Egghead Island, reintroducing the fact there's a major threat going on here. The last time we saw Egghead, we saw Blackbeard's ship pulling up to the island. Major threat number one, right? Major threat number two, we know for a fact, based on chapter 1078 and now what's in 89, there's a massive fleet on our doorstep. Right outside Egghead Island, we have a lot, bro, 100 battleships, and 20 of them are massive. 9 vice admirals, an admiral in Kizaru who's eating ramen, and then one of the Gorosei in St. J. Garcia Saturn. It's like, man, you have this massive fleet outside, this massive threat. And I love how that was the first thing that we saw when we got back to Egghead, because it was once again reestablishing just how insane the current situation on Egghead Island is, let alone the stuff that was taking place within the island, with the York betrayal and the staking on the Seraphims and all everything that was going on there. Right, so our first question was, what are we going to see when we get back? Are we going to continue Luffy versus the S-Bear, right? Are we going to get a continuation of Zoro versus the S-Hawk and the S-Shark versus Sanji, and seeing the S-Snake versus the Usopp and Frankie and everyone that was down there as well, Lilith and characters of that nature. So there was a lot of different plot points that were already taking place within the arc itself, and then let alone the incoming threats, right? So there was a lot to get back into, and I love that we were immediately thrusted back in like the smoothest way possible with the biggest threat. The biggest incoming threat is this massive naval siege that is coming in to create this hostage situation on the island. And so when you go around the world, and you get people like Whoop Slap, when you get the North Blue, the South Blue, the East Blue, the West Blue, and you start seeing this earthquake that is causing these waves all around the entire planet. First thing I thought of was Blackbeard. Now, I think it was LJ that said within the chat, it said something very interesting on the fact that this very well could be Blackbeard still, just utilized in classic Oda misdirection. For this massive earthquake, and instead going and making us believe that this massive earthquake was done by the Mother Frame, and in actuality was done by Blackbeard, which we have no idea what he's currently up to after defeating Law. And I think that's a very, very interesting scenario. Now, I do believe after the connection to the hole under Eni's lobby, the Aqua Laguna and the tsunamis, especially with whenever we get to that double page spread of literally every single nation is feeling that the sea levels have raised by approximately 1 meter. And shout out to the narrator, who hasn't taken a break, son. That narrator is getting paid full-time. A full-time individual that is on the payroll. Alright? He is getting paid. That brother is getting paid. But the way that mystery was presented was so egghead that I feel like the entire structure was just really smoothing, reeling us back in. The mystery aspect of what this earthquake was. The massive reveal of Dope Spread. We saw adult Momonosuke. We saw Laboon in this chapter. Bro, in one Dope Spread, we had Laboon, Iceberg, Hina, adult Momo. Then we cut over and we see Instant Messenger Sama visibly shaking. Now, my comment section was a little split on that, on whether this is Instant Messenger Sama shaking from a potential revisit to the past with this event, which is what everyone is of the same accord on now, right? This mother frame, or maybe the original mother frame that was replicated now, was what was used back 800 years ago that caused the initial Great Reset, the Great Flooding, that created the One Piece world as we know it now. And the remnants of that were left in Eni's lobby with a massive hole that was under that is still there to this day. And that's what causes the Aqua Laguna that happens every so often, right? Which is so interesting to me, if that is the case, which it feels like it is the case. But regardless, when we see Instant Messenger Sama shaking in this chapter, visibly shaking, it's either the fact that this is an earthquake, which the fact that it's reaching Instant Messenger Sama, who is in the sky, this earthquake was huge. Like, the narrator was not playing around when he said this is something that everyone felt, right? Insane stuff. And so either way, I think either scenario is cool. The fact that the earthquake was so insane that even someone like Emu up in the skies felt it, or the fact that Emu was feeling some sort of like flagnards, like what have we done type of thing, right? Even though Emu's a savage, as we've obviously been able to tell, but even a character like that, especially with how Oda has built up his villains up until this point, and especially recently, with Emu potentially being the final antagonist, I'm excited to see the layers of complexity that are there. And we've already seen that with the first thing that we see from Emu whenever they are just alone in their chambers is the butterfly, which represents both life and death, right? So I think that's so interesting. When it comes to Emu as a character that obviously values something like a butterfly's life, and yet can so easily take out an entire civilization in the ancient, in the Void Century, right? And cause a great reset in the world, and as well as with what happened in Lucia and what we assume happened in God Valley and in O'Hara. It's like these groups of individuals that have just been wiped out of the blink of an eye. And it's also balanced with someone who values something like a butterfly. So I'm looking forward to continue to peel back the layers of Instant Messenger Sama as time goes on. But I'm gonna stick with that being a representation of just how insane the waves of that earthquake were. That even someone in the highest realm of the planet, in the Marijoa, felt just how crazy this earthquake was. And so I thought that was really, really cool. And so whenever we come back to Egghead, and we're all expecting, I know I was expecting, like, man, what's going to happen now with York, right? And I love how that's the first thing that we see from Egghead Island in its interior, is York giving, information on what we were already speculating on the fact that York could potentially replicate the Mother Frame, which is why they can place value in someone like that, right? That her being able to replicate the Mother Frame, the Mother Flame, is enough for Instant Messenger someone to be like, that one needs to be kept alive. Because as long as she has the intellect of Vegapunk and is able to replicate that, I don't care what happens. We need that individual here. And we had like thoughts of the fusion reactor and other bits and pieces of information that was very interesting there. But for me, the most important part from a character standpoint is that it really did feel like, especially now with context from the ending, that this information was just being put out like, yeah, I'm very important, all right? I'm very, very important. You guys gotta understand. I am the most important person to you in this situation. Which is why when we get to that final panel, and York is like, so now that you understand all that, now that you value my life, now that you see me as a celestial dragon, now that you've given me such a title, or about to give me such a title, you've gotta understand, I'm in a bad situation right now. And so when we cut back to Egghead Island completely, we see York crying. Following panel, we see the individuals who are listening into this conversation in the Gorosei. Of course, we're having this conversation. Shinji Garcia Saturn and Kizaru, who are all shook at the fact that she's like, Straw Hat Luffy's about to take me out. Take me out! And the following is one of the rawest OP spreads in the series, as we see that everyone has overcome their current battles in whatever way they did it. And I love how even that's left up to mystery. So Egghead Island. We don't know if the characters managed to outsmart them. We don't know if the characters managed to just overcome their obstacles. We don't even know if the characters somehow managed to gain control over the Seraphim units. We have no idea. And it's that air of mystery that's allowed Egghead to be such a breath of fresh air at this point in time. And it's so... And I love how even the chapter that brings it back in, the entire thing was just covered in so much mystery and unraveling certain pieces as we went on through the chapter. It was just so good. It was so good. A great reintroduction back into Egghead. But I love that final panel so much, because once you get the context of the rest of the chapter and you understand what exactly York is saying here. And so when we come back and seeing that Usopp is holding Nen and Mushi there, and Luffy's like, oh, I don't really get it, but hey, I guess we could use her as a meat shield and get out of here. It's like, yo, as Zoro's holding a blade, because, he doesn't care. I have everyone just feasting in the background. Robert D. Lucci's there too. Vegapunk's like, oh, so that's how it is. And it was just so cool, because they know there's this massive fleet outside their door, and they want more smoke. There's a massive fleet on their doorstep. They don't know, of course, Blackbeard is pulling up, or Blackbeard's crew at least, and we believe it's like Devon and Lafitte and stuff of that nature. But they don't know that that the Blackbeard's crew is pulling up. They only know about this incoming threat, and they only know that they're reaching up to individuals of the highest authority. And what does the king? He's just like, yo, bring him on. Who cares? Who cares? Talk to them. Let them know everything that you need to let them know. But we'll take you. I said, no big deal. No big deal. Tell them all. We're ready for this. We're built for this. We about that life. And I was like, nah, man, this is one of the rawest things ever. Luffy, straight up Yonko energy in this chapter, and I loved it so much. That is the perfect way to reintroduce these characters. And the fact that he's eating. Someone pointed out in the comment section in the stream that Luffy, Garcia, Saturn, and Kizaru were all eating. The individuals that are about to start boxing soon are all getting themselves, replenished, getting their health up, getting their energy up, because they know it's about to be go time. And I think that's so, so cool, man. Obviously, question marks are where is Nico Robin, as well as Stussy and Kaku in that final panel, the most important one being Robin, of course. No idea, right? I'm going to assume it's going to have something to do with the room that we saw Robin was heading down towards, and we still don't know what that's going to be. There's been speculation on the fact that it could be a poneglyph or another one of those memory bubbles or whatever it could be. It's obviously going to be very important because Oda specifically did not show Robin in that final panel. And with the incoming threats, that's going to be a piece of the plot that we're going to be keeping an eye on, with the possibilities of Lafitte or Devon running into Robin, characters like the Marines whenever they pull up, running into somebody that's this important, who back in Wano we're told, or at the very least the individuals at the top in CP0 were like, yo, you have to capture Nico Robin. Rob Lucci specifically let out this information, right? So it's like, I wonder how that's going to play out. Are we going to see a situation where we even see CP0 protecting Nico Robin? I think that would be a really cool twist on this entire thing, is if, going back to CP9, obviously, going back and capturing her and about to deliver her to the judicial island and execution and all that type of stuff. And then now back in Wano, same thing. We have to go capture and take care of this individuals of the highest priority, right? It would be so interesting if those very same individuals, after seeing everything going down here on Egghead Island, after seeing this incoming threat, after potentially seeing even more crazy stuff on behalf of the Marines and what they're willing to do, just how corrupt they are, they actually turn a full 180 babyface turn, and we see CP0 protecting Robin. I think that would be such a beautiful scene to see, man. At the very least, when it comes to Kaku and Stussy, I'm not sure if Lucci would ever do such a thing, but that in of itself would be pretty insane. But Stussy's obviously already on our side anyway, but somebody like a Kaku, right, or something like that. Regardless, if CP0 were to do that, I think that'd be really interesting. And once again, going on with the parallels to Water 7 and his lobby and Sabaody, as we've been getting throughout the course of this arc so far, I think that would be a pretty cool little situation for us to potentially get. Now, where do we go from here? Obviously, we're going to stay on Egghead probably until the very end of the arc. This is going to be where stuff starts getting absolutely insane. Now, I'm going to assume these next 10 chapters might be similar to the final 10 chapters of Marineford, or the final 10 chapters of Impel Down, or both. And what I mean, or maybe even the final 10 chapters of Sabaody, right? It's going to be one of those three. The reason why I say that is because we're either about to get delivered a major L, similar to Marineford and Sabaody, or we're about to successfully escape out of here with some consequences being laid down, right? Like an Impel Down. Or it could be a combination of Impel Down and Marineford, where we successfully escape while the craziest stuff in the entire series is taking place up until that point, right? There's a lot of different possible scenarios. Now, the fact that Oda kept this for the very end has me, like, after everything we just saw in the Around the World sections, lets me know he has something very, very crazy planned here. So, at the very least for next chapter, I fully expect us to continue this insane siege that's currently taking place. And hopefully we get confirmation on individuals like Kizaru and Garcia Saturn stepping on the island and being on a full-blown mission. After what was stated there at the end, being on a full-blown mission to go capture Luffy at all costs. Because I'm trying to see some hands, man. I am trying to see my boys go up and like swimmer. I don't care what the matchups are. Give them to me however it is. If our crew is boxing a billion Marines, an admiral, and a member of the Gorosei inject that into my veins. And of course, when Lafitte and Devon pull up too, or whatever, whoever is pulling out from the Blackbeard Pirates, yo, we're ready, man. I cannot wait, because obviously from now on, our intent is escape. Plans in One Piece never go as intended. So it's like, that's going to be our intent. Is it actually going to happen? Who knows? Who knows? And it's very, very exciting stuff, because obviously we're on the latter half of Egghead Island. It's about time for us to get out of here, but on the way out the door, we might need a couple clashes, a couple battles, you know what I mean? So I'm curious on how Oda's going to go about this. I don't know if he's going to allow these battles to happen. Will they be clashes? Will they be full-blown battles? Are we going to have a full-blown miniature war here on Egghead? Who knows? It's a very exciting time. This arc could go on. We're about to reach the 30 chapter mark here soon for Egghead Island. It started in chapter 1061/1060, and is now going into chapter 1090. So it's been around for about 30 chapters. And so if that is the case, that's about the length of Marineford. Are we about to get a scenario where this arc's going to go on for another 20 to 30 chapters with this massive long-scale war coming in? Or do we get out just on the nick of time? Several clashes happen. We go to Elbaf and potentially they follow us over to Elbaf. I don't know. I don't know what happens, man. I mean, of course, their main objective is to destroy the island and take out Vegapunk. Who knows what happens, man? Who knows what happens? It's a very, very exciting time. But all I know is, at the very least, I don't care what we get. Whether we get the awesome hype fest that would be this incoming war happening in Egghead to start off the final saga, or if we barely manage to escape and go on to the next island for some more craziness, I have no idea. But before any of that happens, I need a Conqueror's Hockey clash between Emperor and Admiral, or Emperor and Gorosei. That's all I need. Now that we've seen my boy again, I want to see Luffy in action, brother. And he just finished eating. Let me see Gear 5 versus Sanji Garcia Saturn's mystical bull form, whatever it is, man. Let me see it. Even if it's just for a panel, dude. I am in there like swimwear. Let me see Zoro and Kizaru clashed, or Kizaru and Sanji clashed, or I don't care who's clashing. Just let me see it, man. Let me test where we are right now, right? We're obviously not scared of admirals after what happened in Wano with Greenbow pulling up. I just want to see how confident we are right now as an Emperor's crew, man. I want to see where we are right now. I want to test the water, especially at the beginning of the final saga. So it's like, with Saint Garcia Saturn pulling up, let's go. Let's go. Send someone at him. Zoro at him, Sanji at him, Luffy at him. I want to see him. And then whoever is not fighting him there, someone go else to Kizaru. And Kizaru will be like, whoa, what's going on here? These boys are about it. And so I really hope that we get like those flexes here, because I feel like we're definitely gonna need that in our favor, quote unquote, and also in the Admirals and Garcia Saturn's favor, in order to establish that urgency that's inevitably going to be taking place later on down the line, right? This is how insane an Admiral at full strength is. And if we see Kizaru's awakening, we'll be like, oh man, like he's about it, dude. Same thing with Garcia Saturn. And so we need that to be established so that whenever we go on later and see the likes of an Akainu down the line, and we're like, man, we saw what Kizaru did, imagine what Akainu's gonna do. Similar to Garcia Saturn, and then we go over to the other four members that we have yet to see yet. Depending on how much they do, we'll go in with that sense of urgency when we see the rest of them later in the line as well. And then on the other side of things, for us, being able to measure post-Wano, because obviously we just saw what happened against the S units and against Lucci. So, and Kaku and the other members of CP0, mainly Lucci and the S units. So based on that, I really can't wait to see a potential skirmish with Gorosei and Admiral, because then we'll really know, are we really about it right now? Like, this is coming off fresh of Wano, taking out Kaido, with everyone barely coming out of that alive, right? There was a lot of injuries within the Wano arc, even though some of us handled that, right? We handled our business. But it's just, I just want to see where we're at right now. And it's going to be so much fun to see how they react to it as well. Like, yo, Straw Hat Luffy's about it, bro. He took on a 100 ship fleet that was coming with an admiral and a member of the Gorosei, and he was like, I got this. We're out here. I got my boys with me. We're in like swimwear. I need them to put hype on the entire crew. I need to come out of there like whenever we saw the Shanks bounty reveal, when they were like, that's the most balanced crew. Characters like Yasop and Rue and Beckman. I need to say the same thing on my boys. To be like, yo, and his incredible commanders, right? Like Runoazoro, Black like Sanji, the first night of the siege in Bay. Like, that's their boys. You know? I'm excited. I can't wait to see what's about to take place here. And just based on how raw that final panel is, we can expect we're going to get some really, really awesome stuff, man. And honestly, I would throw in the end of Punk Hazard as well. This has an end of Punk Hazard scenario written all over it too, where insanity could pop off right as we're exiting out the door. I don't know, and that's what makes this entire situation so exciting, man. And so I obviously really enjoyed this chapter, but let me know what y'all thought about this chapter in the comments down below, and what do you look forward to seeing in chapter 1090 and beyond. At this point, who knows how long we have left on Egghead Island, but because it's the final saga, because of the track record so far, we know we can expect greatness. And so until next time, y'all have an awesome one. Take care. Yo, man, that final panel was so raw, dude.